Hello, welcome to Inside North East Non-League Football. It is tonight a Hartlepool United special. We're going to be looking at everything going on with Pools, where they are in the league and the National League at the moment, and what the future could hold under Kevin Phillips. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by two absolute legends of the club, Michael Nelson and Micky Barron. Over 600 appearances between them, a fair few clean sheets, promotions, and everything else in between. And we are going to give Nelson a bit of a chance later on to discuss how all of a sudden, at the age of over 40, we'll say, he's learned how to take free kicks, which has been quite a novel addition to your game. But yes, we are here to talk about Pools. As it stands, gents, obviously, I think everyone would probably associate Pools with being a football league club, but they are in the National League. It is sad to see them in there, Micky, but they're there for a reason. You know, that's where they're at right now. They've got to deal with it, but it is sad to see them where they are.
Yeah, 100%. I've done a lot of commentary this year for them and been to a lot of games, and it's not only them. The teams like they played on Saturday, Southend, who are a massive club, you know, they brought a big following in, and there's been quite a few this season. But it all goes back down to, unfortunately, some mismanagement from the chairman downwards. I'm afraid that some bad decisions involving the guy in the top right-hand corner here and Spike, and maybe just not giving them long enough to do a job that they would have been successful in. And then from there, just the new manager came in and brought a lot of players from Scotland, and it just didn't work out. And that spiraled into them losing the position in the league. And this season they've been up and down, if I'm honest. They've had a few good spells, but it hasn't been the season everybody wanted. And then resulting in a change of manager. And then since Kevin's come in, there has been an upturn, but that's coincided with some decent players being brought in, if I'm being honest, some experience in the key positions that he needed.
Nelson is someone that's sort of obviously been on the inside of the club in recent seasons. I mean, to see where it is after what felt to me from the outside an avoidable relegation must be heartbreaking after the work you and Graham Lee put in.
Yeah, I think, you know, during that season, the sort of buy-in you were getting from the fans and the atmospheres that were generated around the sort of Papa John's run that we had, you know, getting beat off Rotherham, and sort of having that cup run in the FA Cup as well. Fantastic trip down to Crystal Palace, and you know, results tailed off in the league towards the back end of the season, but it was sort of geared up to be moving in the right direction, and then for whatever reason, I think one of the reasons was that couldn't afford to start the next season slowly. So they made a change, and it didn't really work out. Didn't really start the next season in any real form, and it's a unbelievably tough league to get out of, the National League. There's some, like Micky says, you know, there's some big clubs down there, and clubs who can spend quite a bit of money as well. You look at Notts County and Wrexham, the money they spent to get out of it, and Chesterfield doing pretty similar things this season and running away with it. So yeah, it's not an easy league to get out of, and it's a one that established league clubs can get stuck in for a number of years.
Well, I was going to say, Micky, do you feel Pools as a club? I mean, the supporters have also been through before in recent years before coming back under Dave Chandler. But do you think maybe underestimated it as a football club, underestimated just how strong this National League is?
Yeah, I think obviously this season they had a really good start under John Askey, and I was at the game actually at Chesterfield where they're winning 2-0 and they end up getting beat 3-2 and lost a couple of the better players. They had been unlucky with injuries, with Dodds and Mancini being missing, but they just seemed to get on a run where they couldn't win a game, they couldn't get the next result, you know, and like Nell said, there's some really strong teams physically and sort of with squad depth as well. And I think Hartlepool for a long time struggled along with trying to put defenders in that didn't suit the league. They were getting they needed two centre-halves for a long time. And I think everyone knew that, the fans knew that, and probably the staff knew that as well. But when Phillips came in, he was allowed to bring those in, and he signed two good ones in Parks and Waterfall, who were exactly what they needed. But it's just that sort of recruitment for me is crucial in that league. They've got to get the right players in, and they've got to let the right players go as well. I think a lot of the time people only speak about bringing people in to make the team better, but it's sometimes making those hard decisions about who you let go as well, just to revamp everything. And I'm sure Kevin will be looking at that over the next sort of few weeks and months, looking ahead for next season. But like I said, to get the right players in is going to be really crucial for them this year.
More than happy for either you to jump in here, but obviously there's still ongoing issues with the ownership of the club in terms of a potential sale, but talks happening, then denials and all this, and it's all being played out very publicly. I mean, that's not going to help anyone involved at Hartlepool United as they try and get out of this league in the near future.
No, I think I think you need a bit of stability and a bit of continuity if you want to go on any type of run in any league. Really, you need the off-field side of business running pretty smoothly, so that the players can just solely focus on the job in hand. Sometimes you can see where clubs are in turmoil, and it does galvanise some teams, but that's largely down for a short spell. Really, it doesn't really happen where a team in turmoil sort of does it for a full season. So I think when you can have the stability in the boardroom and behind the scenes, it does make a more enjoyable and a more relaxed feeling for the players to go out and do the business. And unfortunately for Hartlepool, for one reason or another, they haven't really had that this season. It's been a little bit up and down. And is there going to be a takeover? Isn't there going to be a takeover? Is the current chairman going to put money into strengthen the squad, or isn't he? So that can be a little bit distracting for the fans as well, and to not create that atmosphere that they had sort of 12 to 18 months ago.
Yeah, I think, Mark, just going on for what Nelson said, there's been times in the season where the clubs felt really together, and then there's been times when it's been really separated. And I can't remember which game it was, but it was the game after the takeover where it was pretty hostile in that crowd. And I think if you look at sort of the new manager coming in as well, if you're Kevin Phillips, you're walking in that door thinking, well, is this going to be the chairman? Is what he's promised me going to come to fruition? Is someone else going to take over from that? So I think a lot of uncertainty. I think players will sign. I think you'll still be able to sign players, but it's like Nell said, it's the fans are still uncertain. There's still rumours going around that he's going to sell it. Whether or not they're true, we don't know. But there's still that uncertainty around the club, and I think I really saw that when they were choosing a new manager, because I know there was other names linked and they didn't want to come just because they weren't 100% sure how the club was going to look in 3 or 4 months' time.
Yeah,
at times it hasn't been nice at the ground this year. I'll be perfectly honest with you. But to be fair to Kevin, since he's come in, he sort of galvanised them, and it does feel like they're getting back on track, and they've got a manager and sort of a group of players that the fans want to get behind.
I know, going back to the very early weeks of the season, it might be in the first home game, actually, against Gateshead. I was there covering the game for the Sunday Sun, and it felt there was enthusiasm there from the supporters. Obviously they got the win. Summer signing scores, Disawara scored twice that day, didn't he, to get the win. But why do you think it sort of went downhill so quickly? I mean, you look at the start of the season, as you said earlier, was pretty solid. But then when you get towards Christmas and you saw results going against them, and you mentioned stuff like the Chesterfield game, what a boost that would have been, beating who I think we can say easily are the best team in the league right now, and will win the league. I mean, where did it go wrong, I guess, is the basic way to put it.
Yeah, I think obviously they lost key players. At the start of the season, Mark, they were really strong down the right-hand side. They had Seaman, they had Dodds, and they had Mancini all linking up, and they were really, really strong. Obviously, Dodds got injured, who was a big player for them. Mancini gets injured, and I know all the fans love him, but I'm still a little bit unsure because he just doesn't play enough games for me. And then I think they got stuck in a cycle of bringing a lone player in and playing them in a position, and kept on playing them there.
Yeah,
and they just didn't seem to want to change the system. John wanted to keep the same system, and when you watch it, was crying out for something different. And I think they just got in such a bad rut under John that they couldn't get out of it, and they had a result here and there. But it just seemed inevitable at the time that sort of the early promise of the season faded so quickly. And it was just a matter of time for me that John unfortunately lost his job. And everyone was really pleased with him at the start of the season. Everyone was sort of championing him as he's going to be the man to get us up. But that's soon quickly changed as the season went on.
Does that mean, I know, sort of been slightly critical of Raj Singh, but do you think you had no other option but to let John go?
I think there was a bit of pressure on him to make a decision, to do something different. Like Micky said, in terms of like, it was crying out for, Micky's seen a lot more games than me, but it was crying out for something different in terms of possibly tactically or shape or something like that. But John sort of stuck to what he knows and what he does, and maybe the chairman sort of took it out of his hands and thought, well, if he's not going to change, then I'm going to have to change something. So got a little bit of the new manager bounce when Kevin came in, but then sort of tailed off a little bit with a couple of losses and a draw in the last three. But yeah, I think that's pretty much been the way the season's been. Like Micky says, they pick up results here and there, but never really get on a real good run. They did have a good spell where they went 5 unbeaten. Obviously when Kevin came in, but they need to sort of, if they've got any aspirations of doing anything, you need to try and extend that into a real long run. And I just think it's been a little bit of inconsistency throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, I was sorry, but I was talking to some fans on Saturday before the game, and they were like, it's just sort of typical that sort of the manager, John Askey, was crying out for 2 centre-halves. It was literally everyone on the ground could see it. You wouldn't have to watch many football matches to see that that's what they needed. He loses his job, and then the next manager's allowed to bring in 2 centre-halves. And if they brought those in a couple of months earlier, the season might have been totally different. And the fan went on to say, look, 1 week we're looking at relegation. We win a few games, then we're thinking, we can get in the playoffs. And now they're only 5 points off relegation again. And they still need to be careful. They're not clear of that sort of relegation scrap. They've got a tough game at the weekend, and they need to pick up some points. And the fan was saying it's just a typical life of a Hartlepool fan. You're looking up, then you're looking down, and that's what happens.
Yeah, tricky few games coming up. I mean, obviously going to Gateshead next Tuesday as well, and then Halifax are one of those awkward teams in this division that just know how to pick up wins. They're always kind of there or thereabouts. Then you go to Rochdale. You can see the fixtures on the bottom of the screen there. I mean, it's a tough little run. It's probably a really basic question again, but is the jury still out on Kevin Phillips as a long-term answer?
He got some good results when he first came in. I think it's one of them where only time will tell, and I think they need to stick the trust in somebody. I think there's been too much change. I think they need to sort of really give somebody a little bit of time to implement their philosophy and their stamp on the club, because there's been a lot of change in a short period of time, and you just end up with there not being a window as such in the National League. If you're going to let people bring players in, then you change your manager. He's not happy with the players that he's got, so he changes the players. It takes time to get them players to gel and to play the way the manager wants to play, and then he doesn't do well and everyone's crying for his head. So you change it again, you go through the same cycle. There's got to be a point where you say, right, we're gonna stick with him. We're gonna let him try and get his philosophy and his style into the club. Give him a real good chance to sort of get his feet under the table and get used to the club, and the club get used to him as well. I'm not one for agreeing that every manager's like 6 games away from getting sacked, and that's literally what it is. Like, even if you win 6 in a row, you go and win 6 in a row, but you lose your next 6 in a row, people are crying for your head. Like, so I just think they just need to stick with him and give him the time and the time really, just to try and implement himself on the club and see how he does.
So if I can flip that round and look at it from Kevin's point of view, having worked closely with him when he was at South Shields and knowing what he asked then, I mean, you think about it, he needs answers from the club as much as they need answers from him, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing, Mark, I speak to people at the club quite a lot, and the players and staff enjoy working with him, and I think that's a great place to start from. He's made quite a few signings. I don't think all of them have been brilliant, if I'm being honest. The two centre halves have been. The rest, the jury's still out on quite like 3 or 4 of them. Have they made the team any better? He might have had to sign a few people just to get people in. So, like I said, I'm a big believer, like Nell said, give him pre-season, let him sign the players he wants to sign, let him really have that time to spend with it, and give him 6 months, give him a year to see what he can do with that group of players. So, big thing for me at the end of the season is if they can keep Manny, if they can keep him, because he'll guarantee you goals. I don't think they'll be able to, if I'm being honest. I think the season he's had and the goals he's scored, he's a good player, and I think teams will come looking to try and sign him. If they can keep him, you build your team around him, and that's key for me in the summer whether they can do that or not.
Should say we're recording this on Monday night, and he's set to play for England C on Tuesday. Another shop window that's used by EFL clubs on a regular basis. I know there's a piece in the non-league paper on Sunday about over 100 players who play for England C in the last 25 years have gone on to play in the Football League or in professional football at some level, whether that's in Scotland or elsewhere. I mean, whenever I've seen Pools this season, he's been the key for me because he, like you said, he's the one that gets the goals. He's the one that gives them an outlet up front. And do you think because, again, we go back to, I'm trying not to keep coming back to it here, but the off-field uncertainty is going to make him even more attractive to potential buyers because they'll think we could put a half-decent offer in. Pools may feel they have to accept it.
Yeah, it also makes the attraction of an offer more attractive to him as well. Going to a club that's a little bit more stable. If there's a lot of uncertainty around Hartlepool, he could be loving his time at the club, but if there's that uncertainty and he's got a chance to go into a club higher up the levels who have got more certainty, no off-field problems, then that might make it more attractive to him. He might not have been thinking of leaving if everything was sound off the pitch, but you have to weigh everything up when something happens. And I'm sure, regardless of what he does between now and the end of the season, I'm sure there'll still be clubs that will be willing to take a risk on him come the summer, like Micky says, for what he's done, not just this season, but throughout his career. I've played against him and he's a handful. He gets goals, he causes problems, and if he's got the right people around him, he'll make goals for other people just by occupying centre half. So I'm sure there'll be suitors for him. Can the club hold on to him? It'll be a matter of time to tell whether they can or not.
I think one thing that people don't see with him, and I've watched him a lot this year, is hold-up play is good. He'll hold the ball up and 2 or 3 defenders will be around him, so he creates a lot of space for people. But he is phenomenal in his own box, defending set pieces, defending any sort of cross into the box. He's like an old-fashioned centre forward. He used to come back. I remember Paul Wilkinson, that played for Middlesbrough, used to come back and just head everything out. And he's so good at that part of the game as well. And you don't often see that anymore. It'll be up to the manager of how he can try and persuade him to stay. He might be saying, look, if there's a takeover happens, we might galvanise the club, we might move to another level. And I think that's the way Kevin will probably have to sell it to him. But like Nell said, I think you're going to find it really difficult to hold on to him. Someone that's scoring 20-plus goals in that league and who has all those attributes that the teams are looking for in sort of that League 2, League 1 level.
We spoke about a lot of inconsistency this season, whether it's in team selection or form or anything like that. But the one consistent factor in the club has been the supporters. I mean, you look at the crowds, they're still strong. The away backing the club gets no matter where they go, and there's some awful journeys in this league. They're always there where the noise, the backing they give, even through the tough times. I mean, the fans have been they've been unbelievable this season, to be honest, after going through it over the last, I was going to say the last 18 months, but, however long the club's been on this little roller coaster they've been on.
Yeah, definitely. I think you look at the home crowds, and the home crowds are really good, and the fans go to support the team. yeah, they'll give us some stick if they don't like what they see or they don't like sort of effort levels if they don't think they're good enough. The away fans are by far and away the best in the league for me. They are amazing. How they travel in numbers and sort of just that pure support that they give the team. I was surprised on Saturday. I was at the game against Southend and it wasn't a very good game. It was a 0-0. There was probably 4 shots. And there was a little bit of unrest during the game. And at the end of the game, the referee blew his whistle. I was expecting a chorus of boos, and the whole crowd, nearly the whole crowd, stood and applauded them off because they'd seen some effort, they'd seen some players that were playing for the shirt. And it's a cliche, I know, but that's what the Hartlepool players want. Hartlepool fans want. I remember when I went there, someone said the perfect result is 4-3 win, being 3-0 down in half time, so they can have a bit of a complaint. And then winning 4-3, but they just want that effort. And I mean, as I say, I've seen a lot of games this year, and they really are magnificent.
Yeah, I mean the home support, crowds were fantastic when myself and Spike were there. But like Micky says, the away following that you get, some of the places you go to is unbelievable. You know, whether it's midweek or whether it's on a Saturday. It's unbelievable, and it's not just the fact that they turn up; it's the noise they make when they're there. Like, it's frightening at times, out singing the home fans and stuff like that. So, yeah, it is like you say, the one sort of constant thing that has been there all the way through, and I'm sure it'll continue like that as well. But you just hope that they can have something to really cheer about, because as we seen when we were there, once it gets going, it's an unbelievable place to be. As some of them nights when you see the flags and the banners and the atmosphere is unbelievable. So yeah, you just hope that it does turn around and the fans get the rewards really.
8 games left in the season. As you said, 5 points above relegation. I think now 12 points from the playoffs. What is the aim for the rest of the season for Kevin Phillips and the players?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, everyone was saying they're going to get in the playoffs. I never did. I didn't think they could catch the teams above them. The teams that had too many games in hand, that some of them are going to win. I think now they need to make sure pretty quickly that they're safe. They need 2 or 3 wins to make sure that they're safe. And then what does Kevin do? Does he try some different players? Does he give some of the younger players a go? I know he's brought a couple in on loan. Does he give them the last 5 or 6 games? But he can only do that once the team's safe. Yeah. I think there are players there who he probably does need to have a look at, maybe in a different position. I think you've got a couple of players that are playing slightly out of position. We haven't seen the best of them. But the main thing is they need to make sure they're safe, Mark, by the end of the season. And the quicker they can get, I think they probably need 3 wins just to make sure that they are going to be safe.
Nels? Yeah, I think obviously securing safety is the main thing, but I think Kevin needs to, or he'd be wanting to see who he thinks can do a job next year. So which players he wants to keep, which players he thinks are not good enough and are going to make way. Then he'll know what he wants to bring in, what he needs to bring in, start shaping his squad for next year. But the only problem with that is, as we've seen, when some managers start doing that, it costs them the jobs. So for all you think you're doing the right thing by having a look at a few different things and trying to get you think you're safe. You can't go up, you can't go down. You're pretty comfortable. Let's have a look at a few things. Let's mix some things up. Let's have a look at what we need for next year, who we want to keep for next year, and then all of a sudden you get invited down to somewhere and you get the sack because results aren't going well. So ultimately, as a manager, you've just got to keep winning. So it's a real tricky one, but I would think that's the way he'd be looking at it, trying to make sure that they're safe, then sorting his squad out, give him through till pre-season, because there's a lot of work can be done in a pre-season to get the team to how you want to play, get them bedded in. So he needs the time, and he needs to sort his squad out for what he wants, and I think that's what he'll be looking at.
Yeah, I think the thing is, Mark, a club Me and Nelson spoke this about a lot when we were together applied, and I've spoke about it when I've done other things. They should have a blueprint of how the club wants to play.
Yeah.
And when the next manager comes in, he doesn't change that blueprint. The club needs to have an identity. Swansea did it for years. Next manager comes in, yes, you might change one or two people, but the system and the style of play doesn't change. And then you're not going to have this sort of, the summer will get rid of 10 players and bring 10 more in. And I remember years ago when Stevie Howard came back, I was like, it doesn't fit this system, so I brought him back. That should never be the situation at below league clubs, because if you have an identity and a style of play, you just bring in a manager that knows that style, and then it's continuity all the way through. The young teams can play it all the way through the senior teams, and we don't have this every end of season, we need 10 new players to fit this system because the manager's change how he wants to play.
You've kind of just killed my last question.
Sorry.
It was going to be, what does the club need moving forward? How does it need to change? But you've kind of encapsulated it there. It needs to have, like you say, it's like the Brighton model, isn't it? The manager goes,
100%.
They have players to come in. That's perfect. You've rounded it off absolutely perfect.
It makes your recruitment a lot easier, not just your recruitment process for your players, but your recruitment process for your manager.
Yeah.
So it narrows it down in terms of like a manager who's going to come in and fit what you want, rather than just being a free-for-all and going and picking somebody who's currently doing okay or been doing okay. You know, you pick someone who fits the profile and the style of the club. So it makes the whole recruitment process from players to staffing a lot more streamlined, and should be a lot less risky as well.
And on top of that, you've got a coach here, Tony Sweeney, who's a good coach, but he's probably been asked to coach 3 or 4 different ways throughout different managers' tenures. And if the club has that blueprint, he's coaching the same way all the way through. So he can put the same messages through to all the players that come in. And like I said, for me, it's the younger ones coming through as well, that they really know that. And I've spoken to Craig Hignett about this. I've spoken to loads of different people about it. And I think it's key for teams that are at lower levels of football.
It speaks volumes that Sweens has been able to adapt as well, doesn't it? To so many different management styles and different sets of players as well, given how many have been in and out over the last sort of 3-4 years. But gents, that's been fantastic. That's a great.
Mark, can I just, sorry to interrupt you, can I just say a good friend of, I know mine and Nelson's, is having a bit of a tough time, Joe Allen?
Yes.
I'm in contact with someone that's trying to help him through it. He's hopefully coming out the other side of it, and with a lot of support from a lot of people around him. He's going to try and get to some games. So if anyone's out there and sees him, go give him a pat on the back, give him a cuddle, just have a chat with him and just check he's all right, because he, as I say, he's going through a pretty tough time. So just send him a little bit of love.
Yeah, an absolute legend in terms of Northeast football. I was going to say non-league, but given what he did in his early years at Newcastle and elsewhere, echo that message. If you see Joe at a game, go and have a word, see how he is, put an arm around the shoulder and show him some love. Certainly deserves it. Nels, I'm going to give the last word to you, because you are still playing, you are still coaching in the Northern League with Chesley Street United. It's worth having a look on their Twitter just to see a couple of Nels's free kicks, which have come from nowhere. Still enjoying it?
Yeah, look, it wasn't something that was planned. The group's really, really young, all sort of college lads. And they were struggling. And Gambo, the manager, asked us if I'd go in and be a bit of an experienced head just for a game or two. And that game or two's turned into about 15 or 20, I think. So, scored a couple of free kicks, and then I scored a header on Saturday as well. So, look, they keep you young, playing alongside 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and just trying to see if something, it's all right coaching them, but sometimes you go in, you play alongside them, and you'll be able to speak to them and stuff like that, and you hope it rubs off on them, and I think it has. Results have improved. They're doing well. They're developing. They're a great bunch of lads, and you're a long time retired, so just got to try.
He hasn't mentioned that sending off, has he?
3 got rescinded, Michael. Got rescinded.
We don't need to mention it.
3 games last week, 90 minutes, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Hey, what a legend.
I mean, the deadline's coming up for registration. So, Micky, if you want to put your name on a form and get back out there.
I'd have to get signed off by my over 40s team. So,
gents, many thanks for that. It's been a fantastic half hour discussing pools and Michael Nelson's free kick expertise. Best of luck, pools, for the rest of the season. Gents, keep doing the great work you're doing with BBC Tees and with Chelsea Street United. Many thanks for joining us. We shall see you next time.
Cheers.